Richard Miles, it's good to have you here today, and I've known you for 25, almost 30 years now. I came as a student, and you were the Dean of Students here. Give us just a little flyover of who you are, what you've done, and introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, well, I came out of Western Pennsylvania, and not from this background so much, but came to GBS as a student in 1970 and graduated from here. And it was, I think God clearly led me here, and it was a good experience. And then Brenda and I married and went to Chattanooga, Tennessee to go into Christian schoolwork. And for 4 years we did that. And probably that was a changing time in me. It really got me interested in Christian education. But we left there and pastored in Alabama for 10 years. And then I became principal of a Christian school in Pell City. And then I came here, back to my alma mater, and been here a long time, and I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, you're almost closing on 30 years, aren't you?
Yes.
That's great. Your field of expertise has been not only Christian education, as you mentioned just a moment ago, but also counseling. That has been kind of your life pursuit. And tell us a little bit of how that has helped you in your positions here at GBS.
Yeah, I didn't intend to get into counseling. It just kind of seemed to be required. For some reason, people would come to me, even when I was working here on the dean staff as a student. And so I kept feeling insufficient, as most everybody does. And so I began to study it on my own, and then decided to pursue a degree in it through Liberty University, and got my master's in it then. It's just kind of become a part of my ministry. Again, I didn't ever set out to become a counselor or to even get a degree. I just wanted to learn more about it.
Sure. And you have counseled in, personal one-on-one with students. You've done marital counseling, premarital counseling, maybe post-marital counseling, and you've also done crisis counselings for organizations and things like that. Am I missing anything, or is there more to that?
No, and of course I used to teach counseling classes, which I enjoyed, and but we've been blessed with so many good, higher qualified counselors, so we've got that. But no, I've done quite a few different things. Maybe I'm a general practitioner.
Yeah, that's good. Do you enjoy if you had to pick a certain genre of counseling, if there is such a thing? What would your most favorite be?
I would say pretty much anything relational. Okay. I think, yeah. I just I don't know. That seems more fulfilling. I think I have some gifts in that area to work with people. I mean, there's a lot of different ones, but I think when it's relationship counseling, even if it's pretty severe, it just matters to me. I mean, God made us for relationships, and so I think that's the most fulfilling thing, and maybe the area that I feel most confident in.
Sure. And you said you kind of felt drawn into the counseling world, like it was just kind of the next step. People came to you. What do you think? Is there anything that was an impetus behind that for you, or was it just kind of your natural inclination?
It just kept happening, and like I said, I felt like I needed to learn more about it, and it was kind of like, if people are going to keep coming to me, I need to know more about it, and so it just kind of grew. Yeah.
I was at a church. I travel, as you know, work during the week here, travel on the weekends, some preaching. And it was Sunday of a revival, and one of the ladies of the church shook my hand on her way in, and she looked me dead in the eye. This is just this last week. Looked me dead in the eye, and she said, "Preacher, you work all week at the college. When do you take your sabbatical?"
Oh. Oops.
I'm not accustomed to that kind of blunt question from a congregate. but it really set me back. It pushed me back on my heels, gave me pause, made me think about what I'm doing to take care of me. And I know in our Wesleyan, Arminian realm of theology, we talk about being free from self and self-centeredness and all of those components, which both of us agree wholeheartedly with. And so as a result of that, sometimes we have bought into the extreme that if I'm selfless, if I'm not self-centered, then I don't need to worry about me, right?
Yeah.
And what would you say to somebody like me?
Well, I'd say to you what I had to say to myself several years ago. I did the same thing and didn't even realize it. It wasn't on my radar. I was getting burnt out, doing what I love. That's the interesting thing.
Sure.
I remember thinking, what is wrong with me? And I'm doing what I want to do. I'm giving myself to it. And I actually believe that God gave me some leadership there. And that was back when I was principal of the school. And there were some things he wanted me to do and for the school and for me personally.
Sure.
And I did all but one of them.
Okay.
And that one was to take more time off.
Wow.
And I thought I wanted to. I just never got to it. And I'm firmly convinced that I hurt myself because of that. If I'd have just listened, again, I don't think I ever said, Lord, I don't want to do it.
Right.
I just was kept kicking it down the road. And then I realized what this lady was bringing out to you. It was like, I have preached and I believe that everybody should have a day off, a day of rest and worship to renew spiritually and physically. I didn't get much of that.
Sure.
I was preaching in fact, for several of those years, I was pastoring along with being principal. And I justified not having that Sabbath day because I was doing God's work.
Right, right.
And I'm convinced that that was wrong thinking and that I hurt myself because of that.
Well, that's not necessarily the advice I hoped you'd tell me. I was hoping you would say, in ministry, you don't need days off and just keep going. But I think that there is more to that than we give credit and credence to. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about self-care or however you want to term that, I don't know what the appropriate terminology would be, but what are some basic tips that you would offer to a pastor, let's say, who is bivocational? A great percentage of pastors today are in that category. What would you tell them? How would you organize their week if you were in control of it?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, it's not easy for most of us to read ourselves. I mean, like, I have a counseling degree, and it seems like I think I can read other people, but I'm not sure I can read me. And so it's very tricky, and there seems to be a balance that is hard to find. And I see we're reactionary people a lot. We're going to correct this, so we go over here. And I've seen it go both ways. It's I don't want to be lazy, so I'm going to work all the time and never stop. Or I need to recover and renew, and so I do nothing. I need more time with my family, so I'm spending all my time with my family and not doing the ministry. And I think we do need to sacrifice for God. Sure. I think we do need to get tired for God a lot of times, but reading ourselves, again, and maybe we need help with that. Maybe this is where our wives or others, colleagues can come in and say, hey, maybe the Lord sent that lady to you. And just, how am I doing? Sure. And not excuse it. If I'm not able to perform like I used to, and it continues to get worse, then obviously I need to do something that renews. And that I tell folks, find what renews you. What reawakens you. And it's not the same thing for everybody. But I have found I have to just schedule it. Okay. If I don't put it on my calendar, it's not going to happen. Now, it doesn't always happen when I put it on the calendar. But if it's not on that calendar, it's not important.
So what would that look like in your life? So you put it on your calendar, you go home and climb into your lazy boy and kick your feet up,
Man, you know where I live.
or is it something a little more purposeful?
Both, but mostly more purposeful. You know, I don't generally put the lazy boy on the recliner. That kind of happens pretty naturally for this lazy boy. But I will put things like time with family, time with Brenda. You know me, I'm going to go hiking. And I'll put on there, you know, and I have things like possible afternoon off, possible day off, and try to hold that. And sometimes I can't. But if it's important, it better get on there like an appointment. And for me, what renews me a lot is getting out in the woods hiking somewhere. And that's what I call my mini vacation.
Enlarge on that a little bit, that concept of a mini vacation.
I encourage people to take mini vacations, M-I-N-I. Now, we might need M-A-N-Y, but a mini vacation is just something that's a little break. We live in a world with technology all around us. Our brains don't get to relax typically. And so what is it that relaxes you? It could be a cup of coffee somewhere at the coffee shop by yourself with some friends. It could be reading a book, could be taking 15 minutes to listen to some music, take a walk around the block, whatever it is. Whatever renews somebody is what they need.
I wasn't aware necessarily of that terminology, mini vacation, but one of the things that I've found myself doing is rewarding myself. So I'll work hard, accomplish a task, and then my reward is I can go get another cup of coffee, or I'll drift into another office of one of our colleagues and aggravate him for a little bit, and that's my reward. And then I come back and try to accomplish another task. But having those built in, really not built in for me, but just kind of a natural habit and routine of my life has been something that I have found helpful. So
yeah, it has to be, for most of us, it has to be done on purpose, or it just doesn't happen.
So what I'm hearing you say is that pastors, preachers need, we talk about remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy, and you're saying that we need to be diligent about that in our lives as well.
I believe so. And I mean really renewal and rest, spiritual, emotional, and physical.
Okay. Well, if you had an altar here, I might be one of the first seekers to come.
I'd beat you to it.
So when we talk about, again, in realm of self-care, what about the psychological or the mental side? We've talked a little bit about the physical, go on a hike, go to somebody's office, drink a cup of coffee, sit in a lazy boy. But what about the psychological side of that? Do we need to consider?
That's probably more important than the physical. Okay. That's probably what affects the physical. It's how we think about what we're doing, who we are, sometimes even who God is. You know, so what's God's expectations? And so I think having realistic and as true as possible expectations. We burn out and get overly stressed when we have unrealistic expectations. I've always appreciated what Dr. Wingrove Taylor said one time here at God's Bible School when he said, "When I start to get anxious, I realize I am playing God."
Oh, wow.
And God says, "Wingrove, you make a lousy God."
Wow.
I quote that to myself often.
Wow.
When I'm getting anxious, why am I getting anxious? Am I trying to do something unrealistic? Am I expecting to do things that only God can do? And I think a lot of times that's my case. And I actually say to myself, "Richard, you make a lousy God."
Wow. You mentioned anxiousness or anxiety. Recent studies have shown that there has been a dramatic increase in anxiety. I think pre-COVID to post-COVID, we just had some forums here on campus related to that. In your daily counseling routine, have you noticed that? And And what do you attribute as the causation of anxiety today?
Yeah, it's when I first came here in my early times of working with people in counseling, it was depression overwhelmingly. Now it is anxiety almost exclusively. And I I don't know that I can give all those answers by any means, but I really believe that a couple factors. I think there's always been instability in a lot of homes, but I think there's more of that now. Okay. That's my I can't well I think there's statistics that can verify that, and I think an uncertainty that goes with, like, even theological and biblical practice uncertainties. There's a lot more questioning, which isn't all bad. The questioning, I mean, God can handle the questions, but this living in this uncertainty, I think. And then I really believe that screen time and media is really a major part of it. There's never a break for our minds. I mean, our phones,
Yeah, that's so true.
our computers, we don't rest our minds. And I think that's a big part of
Do
it.
you think, as life continues, our phones become more and more integrated into our lives? It's our calendar, it's our ability to communicate, it's our gaming device, it's our work with emails and whatever else. And then there's apps for everything. When you go shopping, you have apps, and your insurance is app based, and your bank is app based. Everything that you have is there. Do you think that there's a tipping point at some point where we're going to revert back to a time where we say, you know what, we're going to have to let go of some of this technology?
I hope so. And I know there are people trying to do that. And I've heard people talking about these media fast, technology fast. Somebody just told me about a person that went off on a retreat and he wasn't even allowed to have his phone there. And he talked about how renewing it was, how he reconnected. I've heard of people offering as a part of therapy, go out in the woods, take nothing with you, just you, and get out in the woods and sit there for long periods of time. Sure. And said, don't even try to think of anything. Now that's odd counsel. Sure. And he said nearly every single time the people that do that have an incredible encounter with God. Wow. So I hope we do.
I remember I was pastoring, had a pretty intense schedule, and I hit a bit of a wall, which was unusual for me. I'm not of that personality that feels every bump in the road, and I hit a wall. And at that time, there was a special speaker that we had at the church, and I sat down with him. I said, "Man, I don't even feel like a Christian right now. I'm empty. I don't feel God. When I read the Bible, it's just words on a page. When I pray, I'm just going through a routine." And I said to him, I was so vulnerable. I said, "I think I backslid." Oh, no. And he looked at me and said, "I don't think so." He said, "Name a sin in your life that you know is there." And I said, "Well, there's nothing that I've willingly or knowingly done." And he said, "Your problem is you're exhausted." And he said, "Take your Bible, go get a hotel room, take your Bible only, put your phone on airplane mode, and start reading your Bible." Well, I remember I laid down on the bed and started reading my Bible, and I fell asleep. The Bible hit my chest. 3 hours later, I woke up. Wow. And I picked up the Bible to read again, and I fell asleep the second time, slept another 3 hours. This is in the middle of the day, right? This is like 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And slept 6 hours. And then after that second nap, I woke up and we started reading the Bible, and also the Bible started making sense. And it was that just a day for me of getting some extra sleep was so impactful in my life. And so I can see, taking a break in the woods. Oh yeah. And what would you say to a family? Let's say a recent grad, now they have 2 or 3 kids. What would you suggest as parameters in the realm of technology? Do you have any suggestions along those lines?
Well, nothing real specific. I actually told somebody not long ago, of course, I was looking at some statistics about how especially young children and screen time is just, I mean, American Pediatric Association, American Medical Association, they've done all these studies that, I mean, it's pretty impressive on how it affects young children. So I think, I mean, I'm just like less is best. And obviously you can't get away from technology. But I think it needs to be where the focus is on creativity and activity and good old-fashioned reading and things that are creative and imaginative, especially for children. I mean, the power of kids using their imaginations and going out and building forts and stuff in the woods, that's incredible for their learning. And but we adults need to do stuff like that. Sure. What's creative? I don't know what the parameters should be. Probably stricter than most of us would have them.
Yeah, sure. Do you think that all of the technology that surrounds us is affecting us spiritually?
Yes.
Have you seen that in some of the studies that you all have conducted?
Not. I couldn't say too much of the studies. I'd have to review. I don't remember anything specific. But I just, again, I go back to this idea that our minds don't rest. And we don't connect well with God in our busyness. Now, I think we can connect with God. As a matter of fact, one of the things I tell people that are overly busy is make sure God's with you, beside you in your busyness. You know, if you and I were working and we were overly busy, we'd probably still communicate some. And so God's with you in your busyness. But what happens too often when we're busy is we forget Him. We're focused on the task and not on Him. And but I think the studies, I'm not too sure. I just think that we don't relax and rest. And there needs to be kind of a quietness at times for the Lord. And I think that's what we're missing.
One of the things that I also think is a contributor in the spiritual realm is we're commanded in Scripture to forsake not the assembling of ourselves together. Technology has made it possible that we can sit in our recliners and watch our favorite church of choice. Technology has made it possible where I don't have to get up and come to your office to talk to you. I can send you an email. Technology has made it possible that I don't have to have my friends over to my house. I can just do an Instagram post of my newly decorated living room for Christmas, and all of my friends see it. And it feels like that the biblical injunction to come together as a community is in jeopardy because of the position we find ourselves in some of these areas.
Yeah, I think there's no replacement. It'd be interesting to look at some research on that topic, but I don't think there can be any replacement for being in someone's presence. I mean, even if you study communication, you get most of your communication from what you read from the other person, tone of voice, gesture, body language, not from their words. That's why text messaging and emails and that kind of thing can be so risky. I've seen people get in real conflict because they misinterpret, because there's no context, they have nothing else to read. And so I think the same with worship. I'm sure others have seen it. It's like a fake fireplace. You know, it looks real, but it's not. You don't get any warmth from it. And I think you just need to be with people. I mean, Jesus came in the flesh because He wanted to be in that kind of physical interaction with us. He could have come on a screen if He wanted to.
Wow.
But He didn't. So I think we have to have that. There's something that just is and feels more personal. And I don't think, I mean, if that's the best we can do, it's the best we can do. But that's not the best most people can do. And I think we need to be in physical presence with community.
That's great. I agree with that. We talked about being present. I think I've heard you say before that not only do we have to be present as in here in our bodies, but we need to be present with our minds as well when we're talking in a format like this. In your experience with students, with marriage counseling, with crises, conflict counseling within organizations, what would you think is the number one inhibitor to fellowship or contributor to chaos?
Well, probably it goes to selfishness, first of all, but and also distraction. But I think a lot of it is just we're so naturally see from our vantage point that we don't seem to want to invest in hearing and understanding the other person. And if we don't do that, then they don't feel valued, and you don't have any good relationships if you don't feel valued, whether it's a church, a marriage, parent and child, friendship. And so I think if we're not investing in people, and again, that's a good argument to be present with people, and affirming them, listening to them. Everybody wants to be heard.
So what I'm hearing you say is the issue many times is not the issue.
Right.
The thing that we think is the deal breaker or the major thorn in our flesh really isn't. It goes back to these other issues.
Oh yeah, that's what I do believe. Larry Crabb wrote a book, Effective Biblical Counseling, and he has a little diagram in there where he says everybody needs personal worth. And you get that personal worth from somebody feeding significance into you, or security, love or respect is what the Eggerichs would say. And I think a lot of our conflicts, a lot of our disagreements and distancing from one another is because rather than resolving and talking about a disagreement or in a way that makes people feel valued, even if you don't come to complete agreement, is you just fight for your position, and everybody goes away feeling like, there's no security in this, they don't feel respected or significant, they're devalued, and that I think is the core issue that's causing conflict and blocking people from having close community.
So we have no doubt husbands and wives and leaders, pastors who are watching this podcast. And statistics would tell us that many of those are on the edge of burnout. Marriage may be on the edge of a collapse. There may be a student who's struggling with anxiety. I know that that's a vast demographic, but if you were to give advice to a husband or a wife who's watching this podcast who feels like their marriage is crumbling, what number one piece of advice would you offer them?
A lot of what I just said. The husband and wife needs to make each other feel valued. Somebody kept asking me one time that they said they were getting married and they wanted some counseling, and but the person she was marrying was not even anywhere close to us, and I kept teasing her about it. And then one day she said, "No, I'm serious. I need counseling. I'm getting married," and I walked out I said, "Well, I'm going to a meeting right now. Let me talk to you later." And I walked out, and I turned around and walked back in, and I said, "Always treat your new husband to where he knows. Doesn't have to guess that he's the most important person in the world to you. Don't make him guess." And I've used that ever since, because I thought, whoa, I didn't take much time to think and actually came up with something good. But I think that's the core. And if we act on what we believe, and if a pastor that's going through burnout, a lot of times it's here. Sure. He doesn't feel like he matters anymore. He doesn't feel like he's accomplishing what he should. And one of the best places outside of what we get from God himself, which we desperately need, is if we're married, from our spouses.
What would you say to a student who's right now struggling, anxious, about to quit, just feels overwhelmed? What would you say? What would your number one piece of advice be to them?
Well, realistic expectations, give himself permission not to be perfect, even fail at times. I tell them to do triage. If it's academics, I tell them to do academic triage. You may not be able to accomplish everything, or you may not be able to accomplish all this academic work and work this many hours. What can you not sacrifice? Where do you have to stop the bleed? And sometimes you have to let this go and let it not be perfect. But the ultimate end is to come out learning the material and growing as a person, not even what your grade is. And so that's what I often tell them is do triage.
And then lastly, what would you say to a organization in conflict? A leader is in conflict with his staff. Perhaps a pastor is trying to bring reconciliation to a crisis in his church, and now he's the middle guy that's getting shot by both sides. What would you say to them?
Well, I'd say, first of all, I'd tell them to focus on their mission. A lot of people, if we just recognize what we're doing and why it's important, and we focus on the main mission, a lot of the peripheral stuff is not that important, even though sometimes it feels like it to us. And don't expect anybody to be perfect. Everybody's got, we say, I've said it around here a lot of times, we're all a package deal. And we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. Is this person or these people, are they pushing for the mission? And if they're not, maybe the organization or maybe certain leaders or people are getting out of focus on what the mission is. But if we rally around that mission, we usually find a reason to work together. And then just be willing to hear. So many times, we fight for our position, we fight for what's mine, and we don't hear what the other person is saying. We can get in long debates and then actually define what we're debating and figure out we weren't really disagreeing that much anyway. But even if we do, find the common ground for the resolution. And you can't do that all the time. Sometimes changes have to be made. But I think a lot of times we just don't do disagreements well.
One last question. There's very likely more runway behind you than there is in front of you. Me too, really. What would an older, wiser Richard Miles say to a Richard Miles who's graduated, turned the tassel, and headed off to Chattanooga? What piece of advice would you give?
I don't think there's any question. I would say to be more engaged and more alive in your interactions with people. Now that might sound strange to people that know me because I've done all the work I've ever done has been with people. But I think a lot of times it's been working with people and sometimes missing the actual deep engagement. And even especially with family, I could get so busy. I thought I was engaging with my family. I didn't think I was neglecting them. But looking back, I should have been more engaged. I really should have been.
It goes back to that idea of don't just be present.
Yep.
Be present.
Fully alive.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And we'll, I'm sure, come back again for another topic at some other time. But I appreciate your coming and taking time to speak into our lives today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a delight to talk to you.